Go! Move! Move! Let's go! Come on!
Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Joseph, and today we're talking about Outriders in the review. Anybody who's been following my channel knows how excited I've been about Outriders, but now that I've actually beaten the game and sank some time into farming as well and kind of grinding loot, I can finally give my honest opinion about this game. So let's kind of get into it, and I'm going to break it down in various sections like story, graphics, and design, gameplay, and the whole end game loop of this whole game if it's worth your time at all. Let's get right into the review. Starting with story, graphics, and sound design. The story itself is quite simplistic and feels like a typical blockbuster action movie where it just kind of gets to the point and doesn't have you stop for a second to really think and ponder about some serious themes. It definitely feels like a best looter shooter story that we've seen, but that doesn't say much as looter shooters are not known for any kind of good story. However, I will say that some of the side quests did have some decent storylines within them. Nothing to write home about, and then usually these side quests are very short and you kind of forget about them very quickly. But I would mention that what I do think that really stands out in this game is the lore, the visuals, and the art, which is to me very impressive because it gave a very unique feel to this game. It was like a mix between Mass Effect and aesthetics of Mad Max, this post-apocalyptic kind of a world on the brink of destruction. It had a very cool design of alien designs and all the different environments you get to go to. The graphics themselves, yes, they're not revolutionary. It's kind of how they utilize what they had along with really solid the art and just the mystery of the lore around it, which I really think is the impressive part of this game and really is a standout. The sound design is pretty standard. It's not going to blow your socks off, but it does the job, so to say. And some of the guns actually sound good, but nothing ever goes to like, wow, this, I cannot believe what I'm hearing here. Sort of like, for example, typically a Battlefield game or Last of Us always have amazing sound design in these games, where I couldn't say the same thing for this one, as it just kind of feels just there. Despite the fact that I was excited about the story for this game and I hope that it would really kind of revolutionize the looter shooter curse of not having a decent story, and to me it doesn't really break it, we're not really here for the story, to be honest. It's a looter shooter game, so we're here for the gameplay. So what is the gameplay like? Well, the shooting doesn't feel as tight as I would like it to be. However, I think like Destiny basically perfected the feeling of shooting in a looter shooter, as well as Division, which had pretty tight shooting. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty tight overall. And unless you're playing here on PC, on consoles, you don't feel like you're fully in control in Outriders. There's a little bit of some kind of dissonance, and it's just you can't fully understand. I can't tell if it's the aim assist or just the way the dead zones, whatever it is. Maybe I have to tinker with my controls a little bit. It just doesn't feel as tight, and I don't feel as control, especially when it comes to doing headshots or any kind of weak shots in particular, or being able to switch very quickly in mid of a very intense fight. But it doesn't stop the game from being super fun. And this idea of the best defense is offense mentality really makes for some tense moments in this game. All four classes in the game feel very unique and strong, with a Pyromancer, Trickster, Devastator, and Technomancer. Think about Mass Effect's biotic powers mixed in with like Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal aggressive gameplay to heal, and you got basically Outriders, and that's how it's gonna feel throughout. In those moments where it really becomes intense and you really have to focus to survive using different abilities, that's when the game really shines, and the fact any kind of weakness this game might have really kind of fades away into obscurity because it's just so much fun to engage in combat in this game. And not to mention, the game is actually quite challenging. It's not easy, especially as you start going up in the world tiers. I think once I hit world tier 7, which basically are difficulty tiers, as they see you kind of do well and level up, you start progressing in world tiers. If you do bad, it actually starts detracting and going down. And as you go up higher, it really gets difficult, especially when you get into the end game. And I love that about this game. It forces you to be smart about your builds and utilize the substantial crafting system the game has to create effective gear by mixing, matching mods, increasing your stats. It has the whole thing for you. And I think the crafting system and the mod system is going to be one of the highlights of this game for any looter shooter fan. And a lot of people brought up that the cover system has an issue and that it's not very good. And I mean, honestly, I do agree with you, and I know where you guys are coming from. And after the update, it is much better. Like, I had minimal issues with it. But to be honest, I really didn't use cover all that often. It was very far and few in between, more in the beginning of the game as I was leveling up a little bit. Now, I never use cover. As a matter of fact, I have mods on my weapons specifically that gives me boost for not using cover. But I did find the levels quite linear. I did mention in my previous videos that I like that this game is not open world and that it's more of a hub, but I pictured it to be more of a Tomb Raider hub where at some points in time you'll get these kind of open areas, sort of like in Warframe, where you can kind of free to explore, do side quests and run around, and so kind of unique exploration and discovery. You really don't have any discovery in this game. The environments do get large, but there's not much to do in them, as the only diverging paths in this game lead to some kind of a side quest, which is a good thing, right? You get a bunch of content, but there's no room for exploration. There's, for example, something like in Ghost of Tsushima where you get to run around the world and just kind of find little things and follow foxes and all this kind of thing. There's none of this in this game. It's kind of more, hey, come here to do a quest, go here to do an activity, might find a chest, might find a gathering resource. That's about it. And you kind of keep going forward. But the way they make up for that lack of exploration is the amount of the sheer a variety of environments you get to explore. There's so many different areas you get to explore, different weather systems of jungles, snow mountains, and deserts. You get to see kind of a little bit of everything. And I think for me personally, it completely makes up this linear approach by just the sheer variety of it, along with all the endgame content. I mean, you could expect to sink about 15 to 20 hours on your first playthrough. I have about 19 hours running right now, and I did some side quests. I did have a little bit trouble with some of the world tiers, so I had to kind of switch up a little bit. And I didn't skip any of the cinematics. I'm sure you can do it a little bit faster if you tone down the difficulty a little bit and just kind of try to get to the end game so you can start grinding right away. You could probably beat it a little bit faster than that. I wasn't really rushing. If you're going to do everything that's in this game, there's quite a lot. I would say expect to sink about 40 to 50, maybe even more hours if you really want to have a perfect kind of build. And that's just for one character. You know, you can do this for all characters. So I think there's quite a lot of value you're getting for $60. And I understand what they were saying, that this is a complete game and any kind of added on DLC is just going to make this game that much better. But I know a lot of looter shooter fans are going to ask this question, but what about the end game and the gear? Because that's what we're here for. Well, the gear is what's going to keep people keep coming back to this game, because some of the mods and some of the gear really change up your gameplay significantly by changing up the way your skills work, changing up the way your weapons operate and what kind of things you can do. For example, I became completely obsessed with collecting mods. I have a build for my Trickster where I have infinite ammo, because every time I get to a 30% of my mag and I kill somebody at that point, it replenishes my regens all my ammo, and then I put on twisting rounds and I have infinite twisting rounds running around just destroying enemies. And that's the kind of things you can do, especially if you turn your brain on to see what kinds of combinations I can create. And I can already see some YouTubers and people coming up with ideas that are just absolutely insane. And the end game revolves around grinding, first of all, the world tiers, the difficulties, through various activities, and the more challenging they are, the better, obviously, the yield, better loot they're going to yield. And they also have 14 unique expeditions, which are missions that are going to test your builds to the max. And yes, guys, they are difficult if you do not have an optimized build. So it's going to be really fun trying to come up with builds that you can run through this whole thing. Especially, I can't imagine how it's going to be on World Tier 15 on solo. I'm going to be really excited to try to tackle that challenge myself. The expeditions themselves, as of now, seem to be a little bit simplistic. You just kind of run. It's just rooms that you kill a bunch of enemies in. From time to time, you might get a small objective like protect a small area or eliminate certain enemies in certain ways. But it seems like it's going to be quite simple. The difficulty will come in through just the sheer amount of enemies they're going to be throwing at you and how you're going to handle the situation, especially in a group setting. But I'm definitely up to the challenge, guys. And I gotta say, I'm super excited to grind this game. Now, it might seem to you that I'm extremely biased towards this game, and maybe some ways I am because I'm a huge looter shooter fan. I love these games. I'm not always the best at them, but I absolutely love them. And I highly recommend this to any looter shooter fan. Just know what you're getting into. You're not going into an open world game. There are things that are not perfect, like the shooting mechanics could be a little bit tighter, or the cover system could be a little bit better. But overall, the package they've created, especially from a smaller team, I think this game is absolutely worthy of your time if you give it a chance. Because in the beginning, it might be a little bit challenging, and I would even recommend to some people who are having a problem with it to turn down some of the world tiers so you can get through the game, because it does really offer so much replay value and so much content, so many things to do. I would, without a doubt, give this game an 8.5 from my perspective out of 10, because I think it completely deserves it. It's not perfect, it can improve. There are things that are, left to be desired, so to say, but I think they're overshadowed by a really strong loot system, by a really strong crafting system, and by really fun and kinetic, challenging gameplay. There you go, guys. That's what I've thought about Outriders, and hopefully you guys check it out yourself and enjoy the game. And if you didn't, I would love to hear your comments down below. What didn't you like? What wasn't up to your standard? What is the reason that you're not playing it? Or if you did buy it and you loved it, please let me know what you loved about it. What was your favorite thing? What's your favorite class? I'm playing as Trickster. I think I'm going to go to Pyromancer next, and then Techno and Devastator as well. I'm going to do all the classes. But guys, if you want more Outriders content, make sure to tune in, because I'm going to be doing a lot more of it on this channel. Guys, enjoy the rest of your day and take care.